what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining me again. We got a real special episode. And back again, because you just can't get enough of the fun and the nasty jelly beans. Ashley Jemison, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Hey, guys.
Hey, you should be excited. I'm finally in the works. Those T-shirts are pretty much on their way, so I can't wait to
I was just about to ask you about that.
bestow
I felt like
you.
bamboozled. Like, where's my shirt?
You were bean-boozled, is what
right,
you were.
exactly.
You were bean-boozled.
Bean-boozled.
Man, my friends were getting such a kick out of us, and I'm like, you have no idea how nasty those things were.
Horrible.
But
Horrible.
I'm very glad to have you back. We've got some great topics for today. A couple articles pulled, and then we're going to wrap up the episode with the special thing for tonight's episode is I picked a couple TikToks that we're going to laugh with and see how that goes. So, beginning with one of our first articles, absolutely wild. An ex-Browns lineman, Greg Robinson, faces up to 20 years in prison for an alleged possession of 157 pounds of marijuana, which, if you are not familiar with the measurements of marijuana, that is an insane amount of money. Like, that would make Snoop Dogg or Wiz Khalifa drop their jaw.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a lot. So, looking at the police report here, I had it pulled up. Boom. So, the Department of Justice issued their report, and it seems as if they rented allegedly, him and a friend, so Greg Robinson and a friend rented a vehicle out of Los Angeles this past Sunday, and they arranged for a third individual in the vehicle and an Uber driver. Wait. The complaint affidavit further states that Robinson rented the vehicle in Los Angeles on Sunday and had arranged for a third individual in the vehicle, an Uber driver he had met in 2018, to drive him and Bray, his friend, to Louisiana. When the trio reached El Paso, Robinson instructed Bray to begin driving, according to the complaint. When they approached the secondary inspection at the Sierra Blanca checkpoint, Robinson asked the third individual to claim the marijuana, and that Robinson said he would pay the third individual to do so. The third individual refused and told Robinson she would not have driven him or her so it was a lady friend that was with him. Gotcha. Had the driver known there was drugs in the vehicle. Oh, no. They're trying to throw you off the tracks.
Yeah,
They're saying the Uber driver's her, she. We don't know.
Right. I knew there was a third person. Like, I saw that they said there was a third person that they were trying to get to take the rap. And the third person said no. And who would say yes? Like, how much could you possibly pay for me to take the rep for?
Yeah, I'm asking you. How much would it take for you to fall on that sword? Unfortunately for us, we're not an Uber driver. We're not going to lose our Uber license. We're going to lose our bar license. Yeah, we're no longer going to be allowed to be a lawyer.
Lives, like my livelihood. After that, I might as well just chalk up the deuces. Like, I'm done.
Exactly, and fortunately for him or her,
right,
you don't lose your Uber license,
exactly.
So you would have been all right. Hey, but this guy. He's done playing football, too.
They're facing 20 years. And this guy is 27 years old. Wow. Whole life ahead of him. And, like, the part that I don't understand is this guy a former football player or is he still professional?
Well, no longer anymore.
Well, yeah. Like,
well, he was.
Oh, he was a former undrafted free agent.
Yes.
That's Bray. And then Greg Robinson is a starting offensive tackle.
Yep.
So, like...
He had a lot to lose.
A lot. I just don't understand, like, what is the logic?
You know what the logic is? There is an ethos. There is a fabric of the universe.
Yeah.
You want to know what that fabric of the universe says? Whenever the Browns get something good, Goddeth taketh away. And at the same time we were given Myles Garrett, we lost our offensive lineman when we had no offensive lineman to begin with.
That's insane because, like, as soon as I saw this, I was like, wow, like, I gotta send this to Alex.
Oh,
like, I knew, like, this
but
is
so
insane.
Here's the worst part. We had an wide receiver who was pretty good. Became a flop, but he was suspended because they found a roach in his car. A roach under the seat of his car. And you're like, okay, that's pretty stupid. But he only missed a couple games.
Right.
His first season ever. You're a rookie. Okay. So what does that tell you? All right, baby, get your stuff together.
Right.
Put your vices to the side.
Right.
Get through this. Yeah. Don't be a Josh Gordon. And instead, he gets hit with a marijuana charge again. They find a little baggie on him when he gets pulled over. So it's like, dude, you don't think cops are already looking for this?
Yeah.
Like, it's already on your rep.
Yeah.
This is something on their radar. And so it kills me in that situation because it's like, all right, you got a couple, like a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Plenty of people have that and don't get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
The real problem here is this guy had 157 pounds
of marijuana.
An ounce of marijuana is a lot of marijuana.
I can't even imagine like what that looks like.
Yeah, I remember telling, but here's the other odd thing. Is I was joking in class today, you know, with a couple of guys. I'm like, what does that even look like? Is that a pool full of weed?
Right.
What, like, how much is that? And then somebody had to remind me, they go, well, it clearly can fit in a car.
Yeah. But it was probably like vacuum sealed or something.
Or I bet you, it was Zach. Zach's been on the podcast. Zach was like, I bet you it was just 3 giant trash bags taking up the back seat.
Probably.
Which is what. Imagine me and the guy in the back seat. You've got a giant bag and a giant bag and a bag on your lap, and you're just like completely. Well, the real question is, okay, so he's being charged with an intent to distribute.
Mm-hmm.
There's no world where you don't have an intent to distribute.
There's no world. Like, first of all, and he had a scale. And some other paraphernalia.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, there's some other paraphernalia in there. So obviously, like you were, possessing with intent to distribute. But like 157 pounds of weed, even if he didn't have a scale or any other paraphernalia, like
I'm still thinking you're distributing it.
I'm still going to, because like there's people who get pulled over with an ounce of weed in their car and they get charged with possession with intent.
That ounce is found.
Yeah.
And they get charged with intent because it's so much.
Exactly.
An ounce is so much. They'll find intent to distribute on you.
Yeah.
157 pounds. That's just
20
ridiculous.
Pounds. 20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
Which, I guess, there's a real social question here to be asked. Is that really worth 20 years compared to some other crimes that are a slap on the wrist?
I've seen a couple of people commenting on the articles and saying like you can get less for sexually abusing a kid.
That's insane. That's a real justice problem.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, okay, so that's a problem.
Yeah.
And even furthermore, when you've got, okay, I want to have a conversation about how I don't find possession to be a true problem. The real problem, if there's a drug inc. problem that we need to legally, try to extinguish.
Right.
The real problem would be trafficking. Because, we've had this conversation before. Screw the wall, screw it all. Just go get Mexico and make Mexicans Americans.
Right.
Get rid of a government that's cartel-ridden and responsible for all of our crime. When we sit here and go, we created laws against drugs because we don't like the drug cartels and all the drug stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, then that makes me really question, okay, is it really an issue when I've got the dime bag in my drawer? Right. Or is the bigger issue the trafficking? The trafficking's where people are getting killed,
it's causing a whole bunch of, like, a ripple effect of social issues.
Yes.
So, like, the trafficking is definitely where the issue is. My main issue with this guy is, like, you had the golden ticket. You're 27 years old. You're an offensive tackle on an NFL team. Do you know how many people would kill to be in your shoes?
Or kill to have an opportunity to even try out.
Right. Everybody doesn't even try out. Like, people don't even get that chance.
Boom.
So, I can't imagine, like, what do you think? You're untouchable? Because I think, like, a lot of people, like, once they get famous and they get, they gain all this notoriety and all of this money, they just think they're untouchable. I mean, look at, like, Aaron Hernandez.
So, how about this? Here's the weird thing, and this is what this story showed me, is, like most things, there's the culture that the NFL needs to project to the public. Like, this is the NFL culture. And then I also think they've got their own culture behind closed doors. I really don't think teams enforce the marijuana thing. It's one of those, it's like the gays in the military. It's just, don't ask, don't tell. We're not going to drug test you, or we're going to say, hey, next month you're being drug tested. Right. Be aware. And aside from that, we're really not going to get into your business. The reason I say that is because there's such a history. All these players doing it. Joe Thomas has come out and said he did it while he was on the team. I'm going to say in the rumor mill of fictionality, there was a guy that went to a school in the middle of nowhere that had a drug dealer that was selling marijuana to Ben Roethlisberger when he would come back to his alma mater. So
it's not like
the same dealer said that Joe Hayden and Joe Thomas rolled in together. Like,
really,
the rumors are there. Whether they're true or not is a whole nother story. But it shouldn't be that irrational. Look at the UFC. The UFC said marijuana, illegal. Then all the jiu-jitsu fighters are like, no, it's a part of our practice. The only way we're going to take on these concussions and go on this grind every day is if we do this. So with or without your permission, we're going to do it. Well, then the UFC made it legal. The MLB, I think, just did it, didn't they? Hold on. I'm almost positive. Boom. MLB did officially, so it's a culture change. I think it's one of those like, hey, if we can't beat them, and this isn't everybody shooting up doing heroin. This is something that really isn't affecting your game if you're not doing it during the game.
Right.
And even furthermore, you had Josh Gordon, who was one of the best at the time as a wide receiver. He said he never played a game sober his entire life through high school and everything. So there's also people who's built their entire career in this, I don't know, this area where I don't know. You've got someone like Josh Gordon who's gone his entire career, who's never gone played sober. So does it really affect your play? I don't know. It was one of my friends thought I was ridiculous. My friend Jorge's from Puerto Rico. Okay. We were all laughing and joking, playing video games about the ridiculous reasons weed is illegal. And I go, gotta stop those black men from craving white women. And he thought I made that up, pulled it out of my ass. He's like, what? I'm like, no, dude, that is a legitimate, policy reason in the books for why weed's illegal. So when we really break down why this stuff's illegal, it's not even illegal for the right reasons.
Wait. So I know the whole black men are brutes. We
can even talk about the Bloomberg thing if we want. But no.
So I've heard that before, and that's something that dates back to even pre-Jim Crow.
Right.
But that is a policy reason for
one of the reasons. The main underlying reason that isn't discussed is the United States government just completely invested themselves in the paper industry, and the hemp industry was taking it under. So they were coming up with any kind of BS reason that they could throw at the wall to see what stuck. And that was one of the many reasons. So, it's just funny that when you really look at the reason these things are illegal, it's for ridiculous reasons.
It is.
But if the modern dated version is we're trying to fight against a cartel that's stealing from people and killing people, well then the real problem is not Callaway with a roach under his seat. The real problem is 150 pounds in the Uber car.
Right.
So it's hard to find empathy for this guy.
Yeah, it's really hard, especially when you just signed a $6.4 million contract for a year with the Browns. 1 year. $6.4 million. You're 27 years old.
And how much did we pay to go to school for 1 year?
I don't even it's insane. We're paying to get a job. This guy is loaded. And he's spending it on what he wants. Dream, right? 150.
It's just if Patrick Star were to get rich, he'd be like, I want a pool full of pudding. But pudding's my favorite thing. It's like this dude finally got all the money in the world. He just went to the most juvenile way to spend it. I want a pool of weed.
And I think they got stopped before they even went through the border.
Yeah.
So they were headed to the cartel.
Yes.
from the United States.
As if it wasn't safe and cushy.
This sounds like a movie.
Right?
Like,
it just doesn't seem real, you know? Like, nobody's that dumb. Yes, no, Mr. Robinson is.
There are folks that dumb.
All right, well, keep it on the sports tone.
You were right, though.
What's that?
Like, that reason for...
That was one of the reasons weed is illegal. Isn't that dumbfounding? And it's sad.
I'm not surprised.
But it also should be a great testament to how far we've come. Yeah. The fact that feels like such another world, and that was just 50, 60 years ago, you know, a generation ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big stride in one generation. Imagine what our grandkids as grandparents will experience, right? Like, hopefully. At least you can hope.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Yeah. Well, no. What you can do is practice as we do. You be the change you want to see, and it'll all come with it.
That's true.
So, moving on, but to keep it on the sports tone, just find it very funny. This is an article posted by Barstool Sports. So, I was explaining to Ashley before the podcast how we all kind of have an understanding of how the Houston Astros are under huge fire for getting caught cheating during the World Series for the past 2 years. A couple of the things they were doing were filming base coaches and their hand signals. They would catch for a fast pitch. The cameras would catch it, and this kid, Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, some of their best players would have a wire on their chest, and it would zap them for when the fastball was coming.
Wow.
Because a fastball is how you're going to get your home run. And so it would zap them for when the fastball's coming, and now just a whole slew. It was like a whole organizational thing of, and the players would bash trash cans when the fastball was coming.
Wow.
So, long story short, this is what I was excited to tell you, and I was about to tell you, and I stopped myself. So, in Las Vegas right now, there is an over-under for how many Houston Astros baseball players will get hit by a pitch during next year's entire season. Over-under 83.5 batters will get hit by a pitch. And so the MLB came out with this strong statement against it. It's so funny how they're stronger against players intentionally hitting batters for cheating, but they aren't as strong against the cheaters. Like, you didn't come down this hard against the cheaters, but the MLB came out, no intentionally hitting batters, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then I played for you.
Addressing the real issue.
Exactly. But I played for you just before this podcast. How funny is it? The cockiest little shit, Alex Bregman, is the one last year on Part of My Take, the Barstool podcast, saying, my favorite unspoken rule in the MLB is intentionally hitting a batter when they act ridiculous or their teammate acts ridiculous, because it's a way baseball players can help police themselves. It's like, funny you say that. Yeah, you don't say. So I just think that's hilarious. Alex Bregman, get ready. Yeah. You're going to be like, I'm going to put the gif up right now. It's going to be like Happy Gilmore when he got to the batting cage.
Don't worry about it.
And then you get hit by the pitches. But yeah, that's great stuff, you know? So a special article that Ashley pulled for us that's going to spark some really great, interesting conversation is, so the article was posted by NBC News, and it says that Dwyane Wade, here it is. Dwyane Wade says his trans daughter, Zaya, knew her gender identity since she was 3 years old. It was a process for us to sit down with our daughter and to find out what she likes and who she is. What are your thoughts? Give us something to start off with.
Okay, so on the one hand, it's like, you know, I understand that ever since Bruce, well, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner, came out in, 2015, and said that she was trans. I understand since then, like, there's been this national conversation about trans rights and transgender people and what their plight is.
Right.
So I get that. But I don't know if I'm okay with having kids make such, like, dire decisions at such a young age. So to know, I think you can like kind of see your kid is heading in a certain direction at 3 years old. Like, for instance, one of my nephews, like when he was really young, around like 3 or 4, like there's a lot of women in our family. So he was like emulating like, some of our movements and like, he'd pick up a pocketbook, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Right.
And I think that's just human. That's just like, you emulating what you see around you. You emulating your environment. But then it's like kind of the adults, not even kind of, it is the adults in his life's job, their responsibility to kind of stir him in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like to socialize him in such a way that, a male is supposed to be socialized.
Right.
My grandmother, I went to go see her back in Christmas of 2018 in Jamaica. And she was 99 and still sharp as a whistle. And like one of my little cousins was on the porch, like playing with like dolls. And like she like snapped and was like, kids are not supposed to play with dollies. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was a little, my cousin was a little boy. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, what I'm saying is back then, like in their generation and a couple generations afterwards, it was commonplace for us to like socialize girls and socialize boys in different ways. Right. You get what I mean? Like the toys that we play with were different.
Correct.
You can still see that till this day. The clothes that we wear are different. Not even just the colors, but like the garments, the way they fit, the colors, everything were different. The things that we say, the things that we do. You get what I mean? Right. So what my concern is with Zaya Wade is, was it that she knew that she was transgender? Or is she like kind of a victim of the times?
Boom.
Like, is she
that
kind
is a severe question.
Yeah, like, is she kind of just a victim of the times where it's just like, you know what? I'm Dwyane Wade. I'm on a national platform. Everybody's looking at me. And I just can't say, no, I'm not going to accept this. You get what I'm saying? Like
100%. Dwyane Wade's under pressure. I can't
imagine it. I can't imagine what kind of pressure.
That's the most disgusting part. And to further the point, I don't think none of us are psychology majors. And when I talk to my sister, who's a pharmacist, and she's going to, go into psychology and learning about the depths of just the science, it's mind-boggling, the chemistry of a brain and how delicate it is, and just considering all of that. When we have to acknowledge we have a very, very juvenile understanding of it as it is, and it's like the ocean. We know the ocean's deep as hell, but we know a lot about a little bit, and we barely scratch the surface. I think the mind is the same way. So it's hard to make any distinctions off of what we don't know. Yeah. But living in this world of not knowing, the most bothersome thing for me, similar to this situation, is in Canada. If you go back to our first podcast 2 years ago with Kyle, the thing that bugged the hell out of me more than anything was the fact that Canada has a very legitimate law that says if your child 3 years old or older comes to you and says, I might be transgender, not that I am, I may be, I think I might. Okay. If you don't put them on puberty inhibitors, if you, the parent, do not put the kid on puberty inhibitors, the state can take your kid away. Now, that's where I draw the line. Now, the social... First of all, think about how this strong leftist agenda is so loud, but it really isn't representative of the population. It's maybe 50%, and even the 50% that claim to be them truly aren't them. Right. And so it's this small pocket of people. And so it's terrifying when you've got an adult like Dwyane Wade, or what if I got a girl pregnant, or my father? Yeah. We need to allow humans to act on their own will. And And whether it's ignorant or correct, that's the only way to learn. So guess what? You put your kid on puberty inhibitors, and then we find out down the line the detriments to the brain of what it does when you don't go through puberty or any of that stuff.
That's like the natural order of things. Yeah. So to stop that, you know what I mean? Just because a child, they're 3 years old, Alex. That's my issue.
Yes.
Like it's just like they're 3 years old. If we are going to sit here and say that a person cannot vote until they are 18. You are not considered an adult until you are 18, and there's a ton of studies that say.
And even then, we say you're ignorant as hell.
Exactly. Like there are tons of studies that say people do not, like, their minds are not fully developed until they're 25 years old.
Correct.
If we're saying that, and you can't drink until you're 21, like all of these age limits, why at 3 years old are you able to say definitively, I am transgender? Just because you have, these feelings that may or may not be legitimate. You get what I mean? Like, I don't want to say that their feelings aren't valid. What I am saying is that feelings are fleeting.
And they're confusing. Hold on. We are adults. We are in our late 20s, and I still don't get my feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
But guess what? I got a 10 times better grasp on them than I did when I was a child, when I was a juvenile. Yeah. And the real issue here is, it's so funny as a parent, or in just the realm of parenting, it's so innate that if a kid comes up to you and goes, Mom, I want a puppy. Mom, I want a popsicle. Mom, I want cookies for dinner. You always tell the kid, like, no, like, wait.
Yeah.
You always make them wait, and then either they forget about it, either they come to their senses, whatever it is. I want to quit football. Well, guess what? I was never allowed to.
Yeah, exactly.
Suck for me. If I started a sport I didn't like, my dad had made me finish it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things in life where I don't get to where I'm at. I don't grow the right way I'm supposed to unless I have the proper parental boundaries to push back on what I think is right. Because this whole time, I can tell you the whole story in my brain. I'm this detached from reality psycho in my head that talks to myself. But that person that's been with me the entire time, I thought I was right. All the time. From when I was 5 years old, behind the door to my parents, like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And to 16, what do you mean I gotta come home at 11? You don't get it. You don't get it. Fun's gotta have to end at some point. Yeah. Well, and then the whole time I'm sitting there, well, why can't I have my fun now if it's gonna have to end at some point?
Exactly.
I never understood that, no, you're growing things to help benefit you down the line. Yeah. So I'm, again, like you said, I'm not taking away in saying your feelings are wrong, but they're also not permanent. And that also, because you're having those feelings, doesn't mean your feelings are right. It's so funny, the same liberal can go, your feeling of anger, somebody wrongs you. That because you're angry doesn't mean it's right. Let's just say, I don't know, an Asian guy gets a position at a job over me, and well, I'm angry at that Asian guy. Well, you're angry for the wrong reasons. You're not supposed to be angry. So why in those situations am I supposed to be reflexive, and I'm supposed to grow and go, well, no, this anger isn't right. I need to change myself. Or when people get sad at the wrong times. They're too sensitive. They're too sensitive. Well, you don't learn you're too sensitive unless somebody tells you, whoa, pump the brakes. This is where you need to grow. Get callous. So if somebody's not telling you, hey, don't cut off your penis yet, you're just going to keep lopping things off. Like, you know what? I think I'm supposed to have 4 fingers. And then you're like, okay, still not feeling. Because guess what? Out of 7.5 billion people, you're a third of 1%. You don't exist in the reality of people. And they don't want to talk about the real statistics. But in the real statistics, you're such a fraction, you're an ant that doesn't exist in reality. You're just aggressively loud. Yeah. So in that respect, there's something wrong here, right? Everybody else is firing and all their pistons are firing for the most part. We've all got our chemical imbalances. Yeah. But it's like, if we can acknowledge that, well, this isn't normal, I think that the cure isn't lopping things off until you feel right, because the statistics are real high. They love throwing in your face that the transgender people have the highest suicide rate. Well, they love to leave out in that statistic that 85% of those that kill themselves that are transgender kill themselves post-surgery, which to me leads me to believe that you thought cutting off the hot dog was the answer, the hot dog's gone and the problem's still here. Shucks, it didn't fix the problem. So that's this is just a whole crazy situation.
Yeah.
And this is an issue for Dwyane Wade. I feel bad I'd like to believe this is what he wanted and it wasn't social pressure, but we live in reality. There's a good chance it was.
I mean, he said as much, basically.
Did he?
Yeah, like he basically said in the Ellen interview that like he had to check himself because he's also said the wrong terms in the locker room, you know what I mean, talking to his teammates and
I do remember that.
You know what I mean? And he said that his daughter, like when she got older, started researching for herself and said, I don't think that I'm gay.
I think I'm this.
Or straight. I think I am trans.
So how about this?
I'm actually a girl.
To your point of maybe society's creating more and more of this in impressionable children.
Yeah.
Maybe there's people that are more inclined to this lifestyle but are pushed into it because of something else. But it is very interesting where there's no acknowledgement of you may grow out of this. And I don't know. I'm sorry. I did kind of lose my train of thought. But you do make a very strong point where it does seem like he was under social pressure.
I just don't see Dwyane Wade. Let's just like switch him out for like an equally. Say Scottie Pippen, 25 years ago, had a son who was transgender.
Oh, yeah.
Like who thought that they were transgender at 3 years old, and then 12 years old, he comes to his parents and says, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I want to identify as a girl. Alex, in the climate that we had 25 years ago, I mean, you and I are in our late 20s, so we don't remember this, but it definitely wasn't the same climate, social climate that we have now. Do you honestly think that Scottie Pippen would be on Ellen?
No.
Or Oprah? Or any of these talk shows first of all, there was no Ellen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, do you think he would be saying, like, I had to check myself? Probably not. Probably not. Like, he would probably steer his child in the way that he saw fit. And maybe, just maybe, you know, when that child became of age, he or she could make that decision for themselves. This is the problem that I have. It's just like, what decisions are we able to make for our children, and what decisions aren't we able to make?
Boom. So there's two very difficult sides to this coin. You've got the Dwyane Wade side of this coin, and you've got the Zaya.
Zaya, yeah.
Yeah, Zaya's side of the coin. I think Dwyane Wade as a parent. So the Dwyane Wade side of the coin. You need to be as allowed as a parent to do what you think is right. Because guess what? All of our parents, what they think is right is just polar different.
From what we believe.
No. Just from each other.
Yeah,
what your parents think is right is very different than what... But there's enough overlap for us to make social norms and live amongst each other. Mm-hmm. But there's also things that make us very different. But to find out what works and what's best is the only way to... it's like the marketplace of ideas. You got to let everything flourish to figure out what works best. So on the side of the coin of Dwyane Wade, I feel like it's really dangerous to disarm the parent and take away from them their right to...
disagree
or parent the way they see fit.
Yeah, exactly. See, like, let's just take it to the law. You and I took family law.
Boom.
What is like the bedrock of family law? Like, it's basically what is in the best interest of the child.
Correct.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, and who is determining that at the end of the day?
It should be the parent.
Court. Exactly. Because they're the ones with the experience. Listen,
they should be the only one that cares about that thing's life.
Exactly. Like, Alex, if I did all of the things that I thought I was justified in doing when I was under 18, like when I was a prepubescent like child, or even when I did cross over into puberty, like if I did all of the things that I thought I should be able to do and like didn't listen to my parents at all, I would be fucked.
And the times I didn't listen, guess what? It came back and bit me in the ass.
Yeah, exactly.
And I learned from my mistake.
Right. Like, the amount of things that my parents were right about is insane. Like, you can't even imagine. So, I'm not saying, like, I think it's cool that Dwyane Wade is supporting his child before the world.
Right.
I think that's dope. But you cannot pay me to say that, you know, if this were 10 or 15 or more years ago, this would look different.
It would. So again, now I want to address the other side of the coin. So one, the bad side, the rough thing to acknowledge, or the rough side of this conversation, is the parent side of the conversation. You have parents' rights that are either being pushed up against by a liberal agenda, or the real thing is when you have policy created by like a Canadian government, government that's willing to take your kid away from you. Like that's the worst level ever. So that's a huge danger. The other side of the coin is now you've got a child that we need to care about their interests. That is a concern that, you know, the welfare needs to concern themselves with. So the child, Zaya, when you have a 3-year-old that comes up to you and says, I'm this, or think I'm this, or learning about this, you really got to ask, how did you get exposed to that? Because that's something that I was never exposed to growing up. So imagine in our childhood, as you're saying, and now I'm kind of better understanding your analogy here. Yeah. As we're growing up, I'm not hearing these terms, and so they're not even in my head to begin with. Yeah. But guess what? I still had a kid in our high school that transitioned, and you know, all our life was Kyle, and then our senior year was Katie. And so guess what? Transgender wasn't a thing then. Mm-hmm. So you could also make the argument that before real social pressures came in, there were people that were actually doing this. Been like, hold on. But so through the evolution of time, it's always been there. Right. But it seems a bit more severe than ever, or it's being exacerbated more. Yeah. And I think now you've got actual pressure. So you've got pressure on the parent. Mm-hmm. And I think you're really our youth today, I think they're really getting pressure on the children now too. On TikTok, you've got these kids being exposed to things that I never would have thought about because of the internet. The fact that she's coming up to Dwyane Wade and going, Daddy, look at this thing I learned about. And I'm teaching. You are a millionaire in America in the NBA. What is your 3-year-old introducing to you that isn't liberal propaganda or something that isn't that much based in reality, at least yet? Right. It's just like, I don't know, that blows my mind. A 3-year-old's teaching you, that in and of itself speaks to me. Yeah. And where is this 3-year-old learning from? Because guess what? When I was 8, I couldn't teach anybody anything because I was still being taught 2 + 2. Right. So while I'm still learning the very basics of how to tie, I don't know how to tie my shoe yet. Haven't computed or been taught that, but somehow I'll teach you, Daddy, about wiener chopping. It just blows my mind. Yeah. And so both sides of this coin is undoubted social pressure that is bringing about very dangerous results, or at least can bring about dangerous results. Right. And so
I just think there's definitely like some things that we need to consider here. I mean, we need to consider it. And like, I'm not saying that transgender, gender dysphoria, these things have been a thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that, you know, social pressure is a role play. It plays a role in, you know, how people are responding.
Right. And there may be other ways to comfort these people's lives than just prohibiting puberty right off the get and cutting off body parts.
There has to be. And like most people, I think most trans folks, they don't like get their private parts cut. Like
that's true.
I think most of them are pre-op. So I don't think that like that Boosie video that I showed you.
Do we want to play it?
Yeah.
Here. Let's play it real quick. So this is a rapper. You want to tell us about Boosie Badazz real quick?
Yeah. So the rapper's name is Boosie Badazz. You might or might not be familiar with him. He's a rapper from Louisiana. has like 8 kids, 8 different mothers. Really shouldn't be talking about anything, but he is. But
you can't help but enjoy his commentary on the Dwyane Wade situation.
It's hilarious.
I gotta say something about this, bro. Dwyane Wade, you going too f***ing far, dog. That is a male. A 12-year-old. At 12, they don't even know what their next meal gonna be. They don't have shit figured out yet. He might meet a woman, anything, at 16 and fall in love with her. But his dick be gone. How you gonna... Like, bro, you going too far, dog. Don't cut his dick off, bro. Like, bro, for real. If he gonna be gay, let him be gay. But don't cut his dick off, bro. Like, don't address him as a woman, dog. He's 12 years old. He's not up there yet. He hasn't made his final decisions yet. Don't cut his fucking dick off, Dwyane Wade, bro. You fucking tripping, dog. You tripping, dog. You tripping, dog.
All right, well.
So there's that.
He's tripping, and I think it's just a funny commentary on it, because it is a very juvenile way to look at the issue. But I think maybe people just need to be liberated from their ignorance, because I also think it does speak to the way a lot of people feel about the issue.
Like it does, because like I've seen a lot of people like reposting it and like, you know, saying my sentiments exactly, and like because they're not aware that most people, like, just because Zaya is saying she's transgender doesn't mean she's going to cut her penis off.
Like, that's true. That is very true.
You know, like there's...
But I'm pretty sure I was reading that they have started her on puberty inhibitors and hormones. But the reason... What's crazy is they put them on puberty inhibitors right off the get because it's easier to remove the penis then. That's the only reason for puberty inhibitors.
No. They can... the reason for puberty inhibitors is... If they undergo puberty, then it's harder for them to transition. It's harder for them to look the way that they'd like to look. You get what I mean? Like, so if
so it's not just the penis.
It's not because things. Most of them keep it. You get what I mean? Like, right. Most of them do keep it. So like, it's not because of that. Like, if you wait too long and puberty does kick in, then, you know, obviously you're gonna look like a guy.
That makes more sense.
A woman. You get what I mean? So it's like...
And that makes me feel a little bit better. I thought it was all for the surgery.
No.
Still, I don't know how I feel about, you know, the whole, like... Here's what really stinks, and we kind of touched upon it, but when it comes to puberty... Mm-hmm. I'm nowhere near the same wild animal I was before, and when I look back at that person, the headspace that person was in, it was like... Just you refer to it as a totally different person, because it was just so foreign to what you transition into. Mm-hmm. That being the case, a lot of cognitive change goes with it.
Yes,
and you gotta question how much of that comes in a transgender person's life too.
Right.
But then you look at Bruce Jenner, and he went through it all, and he lived his whole life as a man, 2 lives for a man, and then he decided he was a woman. Right. So maybe it's juvenile to think that puberty does change your brain into not being you know, like, I think it might be too juvenile to go, hey, maybe if you just went through puberty, you wouldn't have this problem anymore. Like,
I'm just gonna say that we don't know enough.
100%.
That's what I'm going to say. Like, we're still trying to figure this thing out. I think Bruce Jenner got the ball rolling. To be honest. Because this has been a thing. You guys can look it up. Like, there's been trans people for a minute now.
Centuries.
This is not new. But, like, you know, now there's like this national discussion about it. And, like, people, you know... I don't know. Like, it's still in the DSM.
Right.
And as a disorder.
Oh, is it?
Gender dysphoria. And like that.
But see, here's the thing. It always blows my mind, and I may have said this a couple times on the podcast before, but it always blew my mind. When I was in middle school, there was a girl who had anorexia. Okay. This is somebody, when I took sociology in high school, it was taught to me that anorexia is a really, really skinny person still sees, when they look in the mirror, they see a fat person.
Yeah.
And that's the dysphoria going out. They see a fat person, even when they're skin and bones. And so we had this girl in middle school who had to come down 3 times, before lunch, for lunch, and after lunch. She would have to come down to the office and eat a snack in front of one of the office aides because she had anorexia. So it's just crazy that we live in a world where we could go, you think you're skinny, or you think you're fat, you're skinny, we're going to make you eat because that's what's better for you. Right. But you're a man, you think you're a woman, we're just gonna take your word for it.
Right.
You know, it's so the logic.
Which dysphoria are we like? You know what I mean? Like it's
pretty unfair to the anorexic. Why don't we just let them starve themselves to Auschwitz? Like at some point, you just go, no, that's not healthy. That's not the right thing. We're stepping in. But I think a great anecdotal thing that I want to bring up for us to balance this with is 2 years ago when I first started law school, Ashley introduced me to this really great documentary. Link is in the description right now. I think it's about an hour long. Again, I haven't seen this for two years, but it is great. If you've got the time, I mean, it is something you need just in your quiver. Yeah. I mean, it is just a crazy anecdotal story to the human experience. So we have this guy, David REIMER. When he was a child, he was born with a twin brother, 2 twin boys. David, when he was getting his circumcision, right? That was the case. He was getting circumcised at birth. They botched the circumcision. And the psychologist, John Money, who's just a snake, and you watch this documentary, you're going to learn to hate him. But the psychologist came in and convinced the parents that, totally manipulated them to use this as an opportunity to prove his thesis in his experiment. His thesis is that gender, you thinking you're a man or you thinking you're a woman, is socially ingrained into you. So what they did was at birth, they removed David REIMER's penis and made it into a vagina. And they raised his brother as a boy and raised him as a girl. And it's an amazing documentary where you get to watch along the entire way how this David REIMER pushed back. This isn't me. This just isn't right. This isn't me. Right. And he kept pushing back, and how the doctor just refused to accept it. So he kept manipulating the experiment, manipulating his children. There were sexual deviancy and acts involved. I mean, he would, not to get too explicit, but he would make the brother masturbate in front of it. This is what a penis is. And he would make, this is a vagina. You have a vagina. And later down the line, he actually ended up getting another surgery to make the vagina more, like convincing, right? Because he was starting to think like, well, why my vagina still doesn't look right? And long story short, they had years and years of pushback until he was a grown adult and said, no, I am a man. And then it all finally came out. The parents were like, hey, we did this to you, and that's who this psychologist guy was in your life. And that's when he was able to go back to being a man. He transitioned, I'm a man again, and was trying to assimilate back into life. Sad story ends with him killing himself, and then later down the line, his brother kills himself because they both went through hell with the psychologist and all the child trauma. Now, Ashley brought this to my attention a long time ago, and it was because we would always have these, because, again, the whole reason we have the Rethink Tank to begin with, it's only healthy to have these types of conversations, suppressing, and so I was able to have these with Ashley all the time. I think she was one of the only people I was able to talk about transgender issues with and stuff. And in light of that, she was like, you gotta check out this case. Now, what was interesting to me is Ashley was like, hey, look, this shows that maybe transgender isn't ingrained in you, because he thought he was a guy, and he was a guy. But then we talked it through, and I said the same situation, the same experiment, could prove that transgender dysphoria is a very real thing that people struggle with. Because what if you have the David REIMER brain that, hey, I'm supposed to be a guy, and you didn't have that, any of these bingo. So maybe it's a cognitive thing, and I don't think it disproves the cognitive thing, but it still is a crazy situation that shows that it doesn't really matter how much you instill your will on how somebody interprets their gender, they're still probably going to come out the other end the way they see themselves. Yeah. No matter how much you tell them, you're in a dress, be in a dress, you're a woman, they're still going to go, at the end of the day, I'm a man. And you really can't combat that. So, I don't know. I just bring it up because I always find it as an interesting balance to these types of conversations, because what if Zaya is experiencing that social pressure that the psychologist was trying to create, right? And it's like, hey, Dad, look at this thing I keep reading about. But also, what if it is just a balance in her head and she's like, no, this is what I am. There's nothing you could tell me otherwise. You telling me I'm supposed to be in a dress is what's weird because I'm not supposed to be in one or whatever.
Or what if it's a combination of nature and nurture?
Oh, it 100% is.
I just feel like with all things, that's what it is.
I think there's just people susceptible to...
Yeah, like I don't think there's like 100% I was born this way. And I also don't think there's 100% this is a social construct.
Right.
And like the issue that I have with the David REIMER case is like this guy, this psychiatrist, John Money, his work is like world renowned.
Yes, and still quoted today.
Right.
Even
like
though
this, like a lot of the terms, like he coined a lot of these terms.
Yes.
You get what I mean? Like a lot of gender identity and stuff like that. Like a lot of this stuff he's done like extensive research on, but the problem is the research was botched.
And flawed, exactly.
Like,
so but that also, again, I don't want to go down this road, but so there was a guy on Joe Rogan who was a college professor, threw his career away because he went to this liberal arts university, and I really check right here. I'm going to do the research and get the name, but this professor, he worked for this university. I'm going to put it on the screen too. So he thought his theory is that all of these, gender studies and women's studies and all these liberal degrees that are total phony. He's like, none of this is real. He spent his career making total baloney. He just made up studies, total falsified documents. Everything was false. And anything he did that had nothing to do with gender, none of the liberal agenda, wasn't picked up. But he had like 8 publications.
You told me about this.
Yes, that were, and some of them were dog parks make dogs gay,
right.
and that article alone, dog parks make dogs gay, is the most resourced or referenced article in gender studies.
So like academia.
So he was
crazy flawed.
Boom,
right?
Crazy.
Yeah,
flawed.
I remember you were telling me.
And that goes. I think a lot of sciences are.
It's like junk science, basically. So like, what are you really supposed to? And it's crazy. Like, because what are you really supposed to like rely on? For truth. You really can't rely on anything.
You just come to the Rethink Tank podcast. We're going to do our best to deliver you the best content at the truth. Hey, Ashley's keeping me real. She's fact checking me. I think this is going to be the future. It's going to be people finding people they trust, other sources they trust. Because right now, this is a podcast for down the road, but I sent something to Ashley about how our political system's flawed. And there was this whole discussion on how 1%. Oh, see, this was snakes. I keep rambling and I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
You
can just edit it out.
Yeah, what stinks is I'm gonna watch it when I go back and rewatch it and be like, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah. Regardless, dang, totally lost my train of thought. Oh, well, people go to the places they trust, and 2% of the Americans today actually trust the news.
Yeah.
Or trust, the news in general. Trust that they can get real news anywhere. Which means 98% of people don't think they're getting real news anywhere.
Right. I believe that.
That's what's going to make this stuff blow up, baby cakes. You know what I'm saying?
There's always an agenda behind it.
That's true. Right. That's true.
Like, you can't really trust it through someone else's lens.
Right.
And I think I don't know. That's the tragedy when it comes to like the internet and having so much information at our fingertips. It's like, it should be this way. It should be this easy to gain information, but a lot of the information isn't trustworthy.
Right.
So, and then you have like 8-year-old Zaya like looking.
She's out here tweeting and posting and. Yeah, how much of it is an echo chamber, right? Zaya gets in the wrong echo chamber, and she's projecting what's being projected back at her, and I think a lot of it can be trained into you. Like I think sexuality could be fluid, but it also cannot be fluid,
right?
Like it could also be both.
There's also a variation, like within people.
And whether it's ingrained in you or, nature versus nurture, like you were saying, whether it's my parents just, gosh darn it, mom and dad made me straight, or I was meant to be this way, does it really matter either way?
Right.
Like, is it up to you to demonize my parents for making me straight? Because guess what? The liberal would say you're not allowed to demonize the parent for making them transgender.
Right.
But you definitely can't be a parent that's not putting them on all these chemicals and everything else. Like,
right.
So it is funny. It's a double-edged sword. You can't be against it. You can only be for it.
That's not fair. It's just like people should have the ability to disagree without being demonized for it. But on the other hand, I think that. A lot of people are misinformed about this topic. And to be honest, I mean, it's hard not to be because there's just so little that we know about the issue. You get what I mean? So
and in light of how little we know, I want to just emphasize how much I agree with. I think you made the strongest point here. And out of this entire story and, whatever you want to debate with Dwyane Wade and, all of that, the nicest thing to come from this story is seeing his support for his kid. That undoubtedly is the nicest part.
That's the best thing.
We can sit here. I'm not even a parent, so what do I know, right?
Yeah,
right. I can't. I have no say.
What's it like to be blind? What's it like to be a bat? Like we don't know. Like I don't know what it's like. I can't imagine because as a parent, I can only imagine. Like you want to protect your kid, right? And like you don't want your kid to be ridiculed.
Correct.
You get what I mean? So, like, your kid comes and tells you that they're transgender. It's like, Jesus. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is, like...
So, see, and this is what stinks. And this is the danger of this podcast, is I would love to be able to go... And I hope in years down the line, we become a culture and a society where we can do just fun... theoretical thought experiments, because it would be great to have two academics that are about to graduate law school to be allowed to go, okay, Ashley, you say that. I'm curious now. Your daughter does come to you and says they're a boy. What do you do? And now I can't even ask you that simply because we got a job we got to apply for. We have a bar we need to pass. We have all these things that we have to lose simply by trying to grow. We want to grow. I don't think anybody wants to be a mean person, be a bad person. Nobody wants to be ignorant. The way to liberate yourself from these ignorance is to have these types of conversations. But it would be really unfair for me on the spot to go, so Ashley, what would you do? Even though I would allow you to ask me the same thing, I would totally respect and expect you after the podcast to go, why the hell did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, why would you put me on the spot like that? And that's the real danger. That I can't even go, hey, Ashley, how do you come? Because guess what? What if I go, I don't think I would jump on board immediately. And you go, I would.
Right.
And I go, why? And then you get to expose me to things that I didn't see or realize, or maybe I do the other side of the coin to you, and that's how we learn and how we grow.
Right.
And that is at a complete stalemate when I go, wait, I can't ask that question to Ashley because I don't want her to hate me for asking it and put her on the spot. I don't want to ruin either of ours career by talking about something fragile. That's the real danger.
This could come up, you know what I mean? Like 5 years, 10 years later, say you're running for office. Or I'm running for office. You get what I mean?
Exactly. But at the end of the day, Hillary Clinton gets go, no gays. And then the next year go, I love them.
That's the nature of politics.
So yeah,
it's crazy. One more quick anecdote.
Yes, please.
Back in, I believe it was the fall of 2014.
Okay.
I graduated college in May of 2015. So my last fall semester, I took a gender studies class.
Okay.
And like it was taught by a woman. She was like, phenomenal or whatever. But I did notice that my views started to change drastically.
Oh, really?
Drastically. You get what I mean?
Just by being exposed to the environment,
right? Just by like being.
But for the better, I would imagine, right? Or no?
I mean, I wouldn't call it for better or for worse. I would just say that I was more informed and I was able to think about things in a certain way.
Okay.
Like I was able to think about things in a way that I probably wouldn't have prior to having taken that class.
So, I'm curious, I know it's a lot off the top of your head, but do you remember some of the things that stood out to you the most or kind of changed your perspective the most?
Yeah, so like we had to read this book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, I believe it was called. And the whole class, like the theme of it was basically debunking that book. Like, it was talking about, our professor would talk about how women were socialized, like, to be, more docile, and that femininity was like the contrast or the inverse of masculinity, and how advertisements, you guys say advertisements, how ads are, like, they basically perpetuate this kind of idea. So like media cultivates ideas.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But before this class, I had no idea about like, transgender issues or anything like that. Fast forward some months later, Caitlyn Jenner is on the cover of Vanity Fair. As a woman, you get what I mean?
Right.
And I was immediately like on board. Like, I was just like, I get it. Like, I'm going to bat for her, like, or whatever. My parents, like, they're like, these conservative, like, they were born and grew up in Jamaica. You know what I mean? Like, I can't tell them, like, you know what I mean? Like, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense to them. You get what I mean?
Right.
But I'm, like, arguing and going to bat for this cause that I knew nothing about, like 5 months earlier.
Right.
I'm just wondering, like, what... Basically, I'm saying that, like, education and indoctrination are two different things.
100%. The unfortunate part is there's an overlap.
Yeah, there is. And like, how much of that class, like, changed my perception of things so that I'm going to bat for stuff that I don't even know the full 100 about. Like,
but you know what stinks is, and this is the... Like, this is why people go, you're a Republican. It's like, no, I hate Republicans just as much as Democrats. Right. But when you look at a liberal education, which has been adopted by universities, all universities teach a liberal education, you do see, I don't know another term that would, whitewash. Was it liberal washed? Right. Like, everything was liberal washed. Like, I took an American history course because I had to get history out of the way. I took one American history course. It was American history on the evolution of the manifest destiny, America's revolution in becoming a country. This professor took an entire perspective. The entire course was how the white man just killed natives. Like, it was just the most... He's like, you guys grew up with American history glamorizing America. This is going to be the American history of how we were terrible. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things, too.
Right.
But it's same thing. It's like, I didn't disagree with anything. Nothing he was saying was truly false, I don't think.
But there was clearly a theme there.
Boom. That it was ingrained. Now there were, out of 200 people in a lecture, at least half of those people left there after 4 months of going, America killed all the dark people and all the white people suck. Half that room left going, America is just this treacherous, barbarous, terrible place, and they're terrible white people. It's like, okay, you're not wrong, but you're also not right, and you're also peddling an actual perspective that's gaining momentum. And that's just one little anecdotal class, but it is funny you point that out to me now, and I did see, you know, I took a philosophy class, but my first philosophy class, which gave me the biggest headache, it couldn't have just been morality, it was feminist morality.
Nah.
And it was, so everything just had this undertone of like, you're going to learn metaphysics, but you're also going to learn about, you know, racial injustices going on. And you're like, okay, those are important things. Right. I'm not saying I don't want to learn about those, but they're also bleeding into subjects that don't really concern each other. Right. And then it only makes them more credible, right? Then they all just kind of like we were talking about academics and these professors. Well, then this one kind of half-truth builds another half-truth, and they all build into a tree of falsehood. And I again, the main point I'm trying to get at is I am now hearing you. I felt the same exact thing, and it wasn't so severe, but now in colleges, it has gotten that severe.
Oh, yeah.
Where we have protests at Miami. Never in Miami University. We were too busy day drinking and playing, you know, kickball. That, literally, we would just go play games at the field. We were too busy. It blew my mind. I graduated, then it was 2016, and then there were protests. And I was like, what brought you guys a protest? There was never a protest in sight ever once. Now they're doing them all the time.
Yeah.
So now, I'm going to be honest with you. This was getting a little late, and it's a long podcast. But just very briefly, I think we'll have to ditch the TikToks. We'll see how I feel, or see the timing. But just because we had to take it into education, I don't want to abandon this article. The other article, or the other consideration we were going to talk to, or things to ponder, was there's the girl Caitlin Bennett, who is known as the Kent State girl, who took a picture at her graduation at Kent State with an assault rifle. I'm sure you saw her. She went viral because this is my First or Second Amendment right, and blah, 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 blah. Well, of course, after being this huge social media influence, the Republican politicians came in, swept her up, and now she's kind of like this fighter for conservative values on social media. So she took a trip to OU to do an event. I don't know if it was like an interview situation, who knows. But Caitlin Bennett tweets, "This is what happens when a Trump supporter goes to a college campus. Leftists at Ohio University started a riot when her friend Joel Patrick and I showed up, and the OU police let it happen. I think the @real Donald Trump should strip the funding from universities like this that harbor terrorists." It's interesting she says that, they're harboring terrorists when, the West Coast literally harbors Antifa and supports it. So, and those universities. But I want to see your impression of this video. I haven't even really saw it in its entirety. It's a minute long, and this was Caitlin Bennett, who's literally just a girl like our age, maybe a year or two younger. And again, I'm not saying you got to agree with her, but she should be, a person should be allowed to step foot on a academic playground and throw ideas around, whether you agree with her or not. So here's the video.
You don't understand that.
Holy shit, they're fucking villainous.
They're still throwing stuff.
You need to back up.
Joel, shut your window, Joel. Joel, shut the window.
Why is that cop just letting this all happen?
The cop is letting, he told me, Justin, he told me he could not help me. He has nowhere for me to go. These cops are watching this happen. There's another one.
So the most wild thing about all of this is if you see all the people look at the people around them. Like if this was the attacker or the aggressor and we need to attack the aggressor, you wouldn't give a shit about what the people around you are doing. But they're all looking like, are you watching? Like I'm an ally. I'm a part of the tribe. So that's all of it. But the reason I flag all of this is it's like, one, when you go back to the 60s, nobody had a bigger uphill battle than African Americans. or the 50s, the 60s.
40s, 30s,
40s,
20s,
sorry,
10s.
yeah, all of it. But exactly, think about how many years they were screwed, and all the change came at once. Now, I'm not saying the best way to do it is to be a Gandhi, but the ways that have worked have been Gandhi types, where you beat them at their own game. And we've completely abandoned that with these Antifa types where it's like, the only way to defeat
Fighting
you
violence,
is to
violence.
Violence. And that is aggressively violent. You know, the internet goes after this girl. You know, there's a rumor that in her last year at Kent State, she pooped herself at a party. She can't avoid that to save her life. Everywhere she goes, everybody's like, you poop. And it's like, okay, you know, that's fun and games. But it's like, this is a person. You know, if you're so loving, if you're like, love the tranny, love the Muslim, love the love, how do you get off justifying hate to such a degree that you would almost kill the person? Right? Like, that is gross, scary hate.
Yeah, I don't think, like, with liberals, I don't think it's like, they're obviously, like, not promoters of the marketplace of ideas.
Right.
It's like, if it's not my idea, then, you know, I'm coming after you. Or people should not even be able to hear your ideas. People shouldn't, you know, there shouldn't be any opposing idea, any idea that opposes mine.
Right.
And I think that's really hypocritical. It's an issue that we're facing in this country. It is scary. But by that same token, I mean, you know, prior to when we were even born,
right,
there was it was kind of like the inverse of this. There was
exactly
there were folks who were conservative and fought tooth and nail to keep things at the status quo
and would act like this with two buses.
They would act like they would turn hoses on black folks in the South. They would lynch black people, you know, and anybody who was an ally to them. So when you really look at things, I mean, it's like, on the one hand, I want people to be able to discuss their ideas, and convey, you know, the way they feel. But on the other hand, it's just like, you know, are we witnessing like some kind of I don't want to say
revolt or something?
Yeah.
See, here's the only problem with that, as I do agree. And I was going to say the same thing. The funny thing is if in 2020, today, we had the same... What if you had a collection of OU students throwing stuff at an interracial couple? Like, that would be equally appalling, if not more appalling, right? So it's like, we can say that's bad, but we can't say this is bad because they fight under the veil of good.
Right.
You say you're good, so we allow you to do bad things because they're good. So here's the thing. When a racist white conservative in the 50s attacks a bus, they're a bad person, and they're also going against the status quo. That's how they think they're going to do what's right, blah, 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 blah. But they are also, the same person that's attacking the bus kills black people in trees. Puts crosses in front yards. These people, one, the girl that they're attacking just disagrees with them.
Right.
She didn't put anybody in trees. She's not putting crosses on people's yards. They're the ones most close to the putting people's in trees and burning crosses. They're the closest to the people throwing stuff at them, because they're literally throwing stuff at a bus.
Well,
so they've become what they were fighting, is this dangerous part.
And I think that people feel justified, and liberals feel justified in doing that because
of all the injustices.
Yeah, like they think, not even that. Like, I just think that they believe what she stands for, and all of the folks who also stand for it are dangerous. You get what I mean? Like that's the way that they're justifying this degenerate behavior.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? But I don't agree with it at all.
Right.
But I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, and I appreciate that. Yeah. And the interesting part about that perspective is, while it is very clearly the lashing out at this person is because of what she represents to the audience, but she also embraces representing all of that. Right. So she kind of brings it upon herself. The problem, though, is the mentality of, like you said, I get there. The sad part is the mentality is, I need to kill this. Yeah, I can't. Right. The real question is, are you afraid you can't outwit it? Is that it? You can't outwit it, so you need to kill it? Because I know I can outwit you. Right. I'll happily sit at a table and you know what? I might learn something and I might grow as an individual, but I also know I'm pretty strong in my merits. So let's have a discussion. Mm-hmm. And I think this Bruce Hooley, I retweeted all this on the Rethink Tank podcast, but I think his tweet to this Caitlin Bennett thing says it perfectly. Why are these OU students terrified of ideologies that are different than their own? Yeah. Debate on the merits and evaluate it. Mm-hmm. Elimination of thought is the epitome of tyranny and intolerance. Values often preached in these environments, but too seldom followed. Nice ineptitude, OU police. But it's just interesting, and I think that's a great point, and I think that's what we're both saying. Yeah. But it is scary seeing this, right? Because I think in 2020 we'd all be terrified if the KKK was doing this in their, to support their ideologies. Right. So again, it does all come back to the only growth or change comes in the middle ground where we can sit down and learn from each other, because
and there's no way we can do that if you're throwing water bottles and putting up middle fingers and telling people to you get what I'm saying. It's just like we're not even fostering a space for a safe place for people to be able to talk, for right. people to be able to discuss what they believe in. It's insane. Just because she's, protecting her Second Amendment right.
But see, I think the diamond in the rough, the thing that's going to alleviate these issues is the fact that they'll never be able to kill us. They'll never be able to take us away. Mm-hmm. The fact that me and you are from two completely different worlds, and we met at law school, and we still had the same, with two parents that had two different lives and right. had different values and understandings, we still were able to come out very similar in the way we can communicate, learn from each other, and grow. Yep. And I think that's where the change comes in. Where we can all sit back. Only in America
can that happen.
Boom. And we get to sit back and look at the racists and the progressives that are right. throwing shit at vans right. and go, you're both nuts. Yeah, you're both wrong. Because we get to sit on the side and have our conversation and grow.
And actually be civil.
Boom.
That's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about, and I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so we do have enough time. We're going to make it quick, though. I got a select, I think I have 10 TikToks picked here, and then I got 2 of my own thrown in there to kind of incentivize you to go find me on TikTok. So, Ashley, here's our first one.
It's a motherfucking butterfly. Let's go, Mr. Butterfly. Hello? Oh!
Oh my God!
Yo! I had that same reaction.
Killed it!
Hello, Mr. Butterfly! Oh! I love that one. I call that one the day in the park or taking a stroll. Oh, this one's great. I want to see your reaction to this one. Sexual, but get it.
Jello Beats, holla at me.
I think I'm gay, nigga. Eat your booty, I'ma give you brain.
I love how all just stop and look at her like
she queued this shit out.
The TikTok comment she put was, this was the first time I was able to get all 3 of them together right. in one room in 6 months. Make this blow up. Yo, the comments were cracking me up. All the people are like, yo, when they turn and look at her, she falls out.
That's hilarious.
Yo, this is a great one too.
Okay.
He knows. He knows. Yo, I can't get that one enough. Hold on, let's see. Right when his face realizes it.
Okay.
Wait.
I'm behind you.
No, I don't want it. I don't.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
He knew though.
He did. He knew. Like
something was
I
off.
saw Dad playing with the mask a minute ago. All right. I don't remember this one. Oh, this is a quick one.
I'm dead.
Let's do it again because it's quick.
You died. Score 0.
Score 0. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, this is great. This is great. Everybody loves Japanese food.
Of course. Hibachi?
Let's run that back real quick.
That is hilarious.
He already knows. Oh shit. Even she's like, oh!
That is hilarious. Like, what just happened?
And it's over like that? What the That is gold. Yo, this guy is incredible. He makes great content. So this is his interpretation of World War II.
Okay.
I want all this shit. No. You can't have all this shit. Tough break, bitch. I'm taking this shit. Yo, Russia, stop these motherfuckers. No. That has nothing to do with us. We will allow this. Fuck y'all. I'll take your shit too. Hey. We had a deal. Fuck deals. I want all the shit. Let's get this. Yo, France, step up. Nope. You saw what happened to us 20 years ago. We out. You can have the shit. Thank you, France. God. Oh my God. Italy, what do you have to say about this? To be honest, man, we kind of like what those motherfuckers is doing. We want all the shit too. What the fuck? Spain? Oh, they got some other stuff going on. Yo, America, come help us out. That ain't my problem, sir. Ha-ha! Okay. Now it's on!
That is hilarious.
He's great. He's so great. We got one more from him coming up in a little bit too, but he's so good. Yeah! Oh, give us your commentary on this one.
What are you doing? Stop that! I said stop that, baby. Stop tickling me. Stop! I said stop, bastard bitch. Stop tickling me.
Wait, what? So like her deep sister, like
Yo! It's unfortunate that's
Stop! I said stop, bastard bitch. Stop tickling me.
yo,
Must
oh my God. Does she really talk like that?
Yes. Oh yeah, she blew up on TikTok because she sounds so goofy like that.
Wow.
Yo, this one's the best. You ready for this one?
Yes.
This is killer. Those are bananas, right?
Yes. I mean, that's what it looks like.
It looks like a
But
box
what was
of
that?
bananas.
Like a cake? That looked like.
I think she's reaching in and pulling out bananas and just.
And it just.
And Dad's just like, son of a. Here, I'm gonna start it over. Just listen to the dad's commentary. The mom's just like laughing because there's nothing you could do, and Dad's just like, and it's here too. Go for more? Nope.
And I'm taking you out too. Let's go. He said, I don't know what I want to do. You're done. Jeez.
All right, this is crazy. Right. This is crazy. I want to break this one down with you. All right, ready?
Don't be filming me, brother. You got your rapist, homo, thug, black balls over there.
What the hell are you talking about? I am not a goddamn pedophile. It never happened. Never fucking will be.
No.
Do your head.
What? So here's the only thing I gotta say about this clip. He goes, "All right, let's run it back real quick. What does he say? Don't be touching me with your but."
Don't be filming me, brother. You got your rapist
Don't
homo
be
thug
filming me,
blackballs
brother.
over there.
What the hell are you talking
You got
about?
your rapist thug blackballs. Okay, what does this guy respond with? He goes, I have never been a pedophile and I never would. Get that through your head. He was like, no. He was saying you were a rapist, not a child rapist.
So
like,
guess what? Like,
I think you fuck
kids. Guess what I'm going to think of? Like,
yeah,
that's exactly what you're doing. Because nobody even said anything about a pedophile. Wow.
But I'm also wondering, do you think he's like the neighborhood pedophile?
Oh, yeah,
and that's why the guy was like, don't be feeling me, brother.
Yeah, that sounds correct. Like,
and he's just been ridiculed by the neighborhood.
Like he looked up on you know how you can look up like the neighborhood's fucking
yeah, like
the sex offenders in the neighborhood. He's probably like page 1.
And he's got to go to all the neighbors.
Right.
I'm on the registry.
Do they really have to do that?
Every time they move into a new neighborhood, they need to inform the neighborhood that they are on the registry.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? So that's why
I thought like the registry was just like you register, and I didn't know you have to.
They
actually
have to
knock
go
on
door to door.
doors.
Every door in the neighborhood. So it's limited to the neighborhood or street.
Damn.
Yup. Here, but I just love this.
Don't be filming me, brother. You got your rapist homo thug blackballs over there.
What the hell are you talking about? I am not a goddamn pedophile. It never happened.
He's tired of this shit. Like he's like, listen.
Listen, I got on the school bus once.
Right.
One time when I was 25.
Right.
Okay.
I pulled my shit out at the playground one time. When are you gonna let me live?
I'm just trying to cross the street at the crosswalk. All right. Yo, this is a good one too.
I caught to get done. We're going to 5 and below to get some charges.
You better not go in the store and try to buy a whole store. We only going in the store to get 2 charges. Understood?
Understood what? Bro, you're not my father,
I'm
dog.
not your father, but I'm your son. And you don't have a man. Pam, you don't need no man. You don't have no man. So somebody needs to tell you what to do. And I'm the only man in the house.
Wow.
So
Yo.
So until you get a man, I'm the man. I run everything.
Ashton, I will whoop your whole ass. I promise you.
Now, why would you say that?
What?
All right, that's it.
My favorite part is, now why would you say that? just the way he's like,
I run everything.
Ashton, I will whoop your whole ass. I promise you.
Now, why would you say that?
Why would you say? Look at her face.
She turns around
Right.
like, did I just hear that?
That's it.
Your whole ass. That's a good one. And last one from our guy.
Yeah, I'm waiting on that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Hold on. Sorry. This one is the last one because it is the best for my lawyer friend.
All right, cool.
This fits us perfectly. If you don't enjoy this, I don't know what would.
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's the 10 Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution. So I said, fuck them. I can say whatever the fuck I want. Yeah, I just got out of church. Yeah, I'm all loaded up and ready to go. Hey, look, man, I respect the troops and everything, but you ain't gonna be coming up here trying to stay in my house just because you got a uniform on. You want to search my car, officer? Okay, yeah, that's cool. Got a fucking warrant, bro? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. But I ain't saying shit. Speed this trial up. This shit taking too long. Y'all better speed this trial up. And where's the jury? I'm getting sued for $28. Where's the fucking jury at? Hey, yo, guard. You can't be making me watch the Polar Express 15 times a day. That is some cruel and unusual shit. Apparently, we got more rights. State rights, bitch. Any questions? Wasn't all these amendments written by slave owners?
Is this guy a lawyer? Like, that is hilarious.
Isn't that really well done?
Yeah.
I thought that was so perfect.
He's got to be like a history major.
He does.
Like
you
that.
could tell he's smart as hell.
Sure.
Just his history, like the World War II one was great.
That's hilarious.
And then 2 quick ones. This was the one I made. This is my buddy's favorite one of mine that I made in our basement.
Hi, it's Stanley here, and we're hitting the Vaportini. It's lit.
The Vaportini.
I've never been invited to a party before.
I saw that. I saw that on your Instagram, I think.
I definitely put it on my Instagram before. And then one last one. This is the one I'm most proud of. I didn't even intentionally do it. Just fate gave me one of the best videos a person could create.
All right, let's see it.
Hey, yo, fam! Just finished doing a whole bunch of whippets. Saw somebody doing the ankle wrist challenge. Thought I might as well. I was going to do it just myself. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get it all over my carpet, might as well fail with a video. So
might as well.
let's give it a try. That didn't work.
Wow.
Oh shit. Oh, yo, it literally. And now. I got my whipped cream yarmulke on.
So what were you supposed to like catch it in your mouth?
You're supposed to catch it in your mouth, but I took it right to the ceiling.
And then it falls like
it couldn't have landed perfectly on top of my head. But yeah, so
TikTok, I gotta get on it.
TikTok is the easiest way to bleed your time.
It's like Vine.
It is.
You remember Vine?
Yes.
Yeah, like that was my shit.
This is the replacement of Vine. Guess what Kim informed me of?
What's that?
In trademark class 2 weeks ago. Vine 2's coming back.
What?
Yeah,
really?
They're doing a debut. So I'm going to be curious in the comeback. Are they still going to stick to nothing more than 6 seconds?
Right. They have to like kind of extend. I feel
I
like
would
12
imagine.
seconds. Come on.
But if you're Vine, so TikTok's the new thing.
Right.
How do you compete with TikTok when they let you do 15 up to 60-second videos?
You're gonna have to.
You have to make. I feel like you got to make it unique. 6 seconds.
But why didn't Vine Why did Vine even like end in the first place?
Yo, that is something I need to find out.
Yeah, like
that
I don't
is something
understand
I need
because
to find out.
it
was a financial
problem.
problem.
Okay.
It had something to do with finances, and I think it was they weren't losing money yet, but it was on the horizon, and they wanted to get out while they were still making money.
Makes sense.
But it makes sense. But the biggest bummer is they were on top of the world.
They were.
How were you losing money when everybody in America was head over heels?
Wasn't it the same like company as Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't understand that. But I mean, I'm looking forward to the debut for Vine.
Should have just sold yourself to Facebook, and we'd all
that would
have.
Yeah, that would have been a smart move
for you, not for us.
Everybody's doing it.
That'd be another thing, and more information they'd steal from us. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Find me out on TikTok. And I hope we made you laugh. Guys, remember, Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. Ashley, I'm going to push it on you. You should totally check out the game.
I haven't checked it out yet. But I got it on audiobook, so I'm going to
Oh, you got it on audiobook?
Yeah, I'm going to start listening to it.
I should have done that.
Yeah. I got it. Do you have an Audible?
Well, no, Joe Rogan, all he listens to is audiobooks.
Right.
And I'm like, if I could replace podcasts with audiobooks, I'd go through so much more, like, more textual information. Right. Yeah. And so I think I need to start doing that because I don't have the time and really the focus to just plow a book. Yeah. Like, this has been not a chore, but an exercise, and it's something I truly enjoy. Right. Books aren't for me. So now that you know it's on audiobooks, you don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, David McGowan, book club coming up in a couple months. Check out the book. Again, TikTok. Like us on Facebook. We would love it if you could. Check us out on Twitter, the Rethink Tank Podcast. And again, guys, I'm begging you, share this bad boy. Ashley, we got a shirt coming your way.
Yes.
Give us a like, everything. Do the duties. Ashley, I can't thank you enough. Yeah. I always have fun with you. You give us great conversations, and my friends love hearing it too. So I'm very much looking forward to having you on again.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to being on again. Another one in the books.
Another one in the books. Hey. I love when you end it that way. So, guys, thank you. Share, please, 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 and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
See you guys.